Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people with relatable content, and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I'm Harry, and today we're going to have another playthrough. Today I'll be playing through this game here, Shadowscape, published by NSKN Games. This is a game within the Mistfall universe. Not to be confused with a Mistfall game, but it's within that same universe. And this is what the game looks like set up. And this is basically a small little card-based dungeon crawl of a game. So first of all, we have the board, which is comprised of these dungeon cards that you shuffle up and place to create a 5x5 grid. And some of these dungeon spaces have specific things that the game begins with. First of all, there's enemies. We have 3 different enemy types right here. The green, the red, and the blue types. And basically you shuffle up those tiles, and you place one of the enemies that corresponds with the tile. So there's 4 different tiles that start off with a red enemy, 4 that start off with a blue enemy, and 4 that start off with a green enemy. We also have the treasures. They look like this right here. And some of the dungeon rooms start with a treasure, which you could use to search and acquire that treasure, which can get you level up and acquire some other helpful things. So each player has a starting character. By the way, I'm playing this game solo mode, so factor that in. My starting character is Fengray right here, and these are his stats. He has a defense of 2. That means he can sustain 2 damage, or he could subtract 2 attack from any opponents or enemies who attack him. He has a starting hand of 3 fate cards. So right here we have the fate deck. I will start, or not only do I start, but my maximum hand is a hand of 3 fate cards, and his speed is 1, which means whenever you do a move action without any modifiers, the most he can move is 1. He also has a special ability. It's called Stalwart Defense, or Stalwart Defense. It says discard 1 fate card to add a shield or a defense to your defense for each skill, and that symbol here is basically a skill symbol, and some cards have that symbol. So for each of these symbols that you have in your hero area, which is basically your tableau, you will be able to add a shield to your defense if you discard 1 fate card. Now, these different characters have a class as well. So Fengray here is a fighter, which means I start with the fighter's 4 action cards, and he has a life of 2, which doesn't mean that he dies when he incurs 2 damage, but I'll explain afterward. Here, damage doesn't necessarily knock you out of the game, but incurring too much damage can make you have less productive and efficient turns, and eventually you're just going to have to play actions that help you heal or undo your damage. But this character, Fengray, can accommodate or take up to 2 damage himself as a player. And of course, you have your little tile here, which represents Fengray. It would have been great for it to have been a miniature, but it's just a little cardboard tile. And you place your character in any of the 4 corners of the dungeon to start the game. So I'm not going to put it on this corner because there's tons of enemies right here, and I would be compromised. So instead, I'm going to put it in this corner right here, and we'll go forward with that. So let me explain these action cards here. These are all double-sided, and you start the game with the sides you want. And basically the way these action cards work is on your turn, you get 2 regular actions, which are determined by these cards, and 2 special actions, which include purchasing from these cards right here, or acquiring these cards right here, or playing one of your fate cards for its ability, because these different fate cards, not only do they have symbols which can modify some of your actions, but they also have special abilities, right, that you could use once per turn. Now, the actions on the 2 sides of these cards are different, and every time you play an action, what you do is you flip it to the other side, And you rotate it clockwise to show that it's been played and it's exhausted for this current turn. So you can never use the same action twice, the same action card twice. And then on a future subsequent turn, the opposite side of the action card will be available for you. So that's part of this game right here, is manipulating this these 4 cards to be on the side that you want it to be on the turn when you want to activate said abilities, right? So there is that. Again, let me explain here. We got the fate cards. We have the whisper cards, which are more relevant to a competitive game because in a competitive game, the goal of this game is to have the most of these symbols here, these rune stones or these shards. Whoever has the most at the end of the game is the winner. However, in this cooperative or solo mode, the goal of this game is to defeat the Overlord or the Mastermind. We also have... So the whisper cards are acquired by fulfilling a condition that's on the card in the particular room that the card tells you must fulfill that condition. Again, since I'm playing solo, this really doesn't matter too much. But you also have your equipment cards, and the way you acquire your equipment cards is by spending one of these treasure tokens. So whenever you acquire one of these treasure tokens, you can use it in a future turn to acquire one of these equipment cards. And also you have your general action cards, and these are different actions that are not class specific as the 4 starting action cards that you get, and they can be helpful, and they give you an additional option as to actions you could take on your turn. And basically they either cost 2 or 3 monster tiles. So the monsters and the enemies that you defeat as the game progresses can be used as a currency, as a trophy, so to speak, to turn them in for some of these general action cards. You can never have more than 1 general action card at a time. So if you ever buy a second general action card, you would just tuck this underneath your hero, and you would still have its symbols and so on and so forth, but you would not have its action. So there's that. And that's pretty much it as far as setup. You also have your Overlord, and this game comes with a variety of different Overlords, just as it comes with a variety of different hero characters. And here we have Ralpherz, the Way Changer. And basically his attack is 4, his defense is 7, and he has a special power here, Dragon Magic. This enemy may be eliminated only if the attacking player discards 2 fake cards with magic symbol, and that's this little hand symbol. Let me show you what it looks like. That little hand symbol. So I have to discard 2 fake cards that have that symbol on it in order to even be able to defeat Ralpherz. And remember that my maximum hand is 3. So with that being said, we will move on and progress with this game. So first things first, on my turn I have 2 actions and the possibility of 2 special actions, and I could combine them in any order that I want. Again, the special actions require either playing a fake card or purchasing something from here, which right now I don't have anything to purchase with. So whenever you want to do a move action, none of your action cards actually specify move per se. You can just choose to use any of your 4 action cards and flip them over and rotate them to indicate that you've used them, and that will allow you to do a move action. And your move action, the way it works, is you can move a number of spaces equal to your speed. Again, my speed is 1, so I can move to any 1 adjacent room. However, with the move action, you can boost it. As with many other actions in this game, you can boost them. And the way you boost an action is you place symbols of that action. So if I had any boot symbols on these fake cards in my hand, I would be able to spend those boot symbols in order to boost my move action and be able to move additional spaces. However, as you can see, bad luck, I started with no boots. So I'm going to use a move action. I'll choose, I'm going to choose this card right here, which is an attack card, but I'm not going to use this for its attack. Instead, I'm just going to flip it over and rotate it to show that I've used this turn. And that will be my move action for this turn. And in the following round, I'll now have this draw 3 fake cards available for me. So there's that. I'm going to move to a room that's adjacent. And I am going to choose to move over here. Okay. As a matter of fact, yes, that's what I'm gonna do. Then I am going to, what else I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play this card right here. Actually, no, I don't want to be adjacent to this guy because he might move to me. So I'm gonna move over here. And with my second action, I'm gonna play this card, this action card here, which says prepare. Draw 2 fate cards and then discard down to your current hand size. So I'm gonna flip this over to the other side and rotate it. And now I'm going to draw 2 more fate cards. And let's see if any of these interest me. So I'm going to keep this one because it has the magic symbol and the boot symbol. That could be helpful for me. And I'm going to keep this one as well because, again, it has the boot symbol and it has the fight symbol. So if I ever do a fight action, I could discard this symbol to boost my attack. And I'm going to get rid of 2 of these cards. I'm going to get rid of these 2 right here. They both have... This is the search symbol for whenever you want to search. This is the defense symbol. And this right here represents the heal symbol. So I'm going to discard 2 of those. By the way, to win this game, again, you have to defeat the Overlord. But the timer is this fate deck right here. Whenever the fate deck runs out, you have lost the game if you haven't defeated the Overlord. And you can modify this to your preference. You can make the deck smaller to make the game difficulty increased. So that's pretty much it. Those are my 2 actions. I'm not going to do any other special actions. Now, after you're done with your actions, now the AI or the, automa of the game takes its action. And the way that is determined is, first of all, we flip and discard the top card of the fate deck. And we look at the symbol on the bottom, and that indicates which type of monsters are activated for this turn. So that's the red symbol. So all of the red enemies in the dungeon are going to be activated. So you can pretty much trigger them in any order that you see fit. So I'm going to start with this guy down here. We have this guy here who is the Goron Slinger. And let's look at his stats. First of all, he has a defense of 3. So that's how much he can sustain or how much damage you must deal in order to defeat him. And then right here, he has 2 attack, and that symbol right there, that bow and arrow, indicates that Goron Slinger here is a ranged weapon enemy. That means he can attack someone that's not necessarily in the same dungeon room as him. As long as it's one space adjacent to him, he can attack that person. And also here on the upper part of the token here, you can see there are 2 different symbols. And each of these enemies has a different amount of symbols ranging from 1 to 3. And these symbols correspond with symbols on the dungeon room cards. And basically, this indicates how the enemy will move. So first of all, he has that little, line there. It's like a lightning bolt almost. And then he has that little double cross symbol. And now I would look at the card that he's on, and I would follow in that sequential order. So first, we have that little lightning bolt symbol goes downward. And the way it works is, if any of the symbols would lead the creature off of the board, you disregard that symbol and jump to the next. Also, if any of the symbols makes the creature go back to a room which they had already passed through in that turn, you also disregard and jump to the next. So we're going to disregard that first symbol. And then the second symbol is that double cross, which is pointing upwards, which means Goron Slinger is going to move to this room. Now we have this enemy here, another red enemy, also get activated. This is the Wild Ice Hound. He has a defense of 4. He's melee attack, so he can only attack heroes that are in the same dungeon as him. And he has an attack of 2. And we have 3 symbols here for him to follow. So first we have the double arrow, which will bring him down here. Then we have the little lightning bolt symbol, which will bring him down here. And then he has that lightning bolt symbol again, which would bring him downward. But again, that's off the board, so we'll ignore that move. They also, by the way, if they ever, in the process of moving their automatic movements, happen to be in the same room as a hero, their movement stops. They stay right there, and they also attack the heroes that are in the same room as them. All right, here we have another red enemy here. Here we have the Goron Warrior, and he has a defense of 4, a melee attack of 4, and he's got 2 symbols here which we're going to follow. First, the lightning bolt will bring him upwards. Then he has a little squiggly line which will bring him to the left right here. And he happens to join this red creature here, which is the same creature as this guy that we just activated, the wild Ice Hound, but he has a different configuration of symbols for his movement. So first of all, we have the little lightning bolt, which will move him to the right. Then we have the double cross, which will bring him down here, and then a double cross again, which will bring him down here. So none of these enemies interacted with my hero, but if any of the melee weapon enemies would have been triggered and they would have been just one room away from my hero, not the melee, I'm sorry, the ranged weapon enemies would have been one room away from my hero, they would have been able to attack. So now we're done with that, and we proceed to my next turn. So we'll refresh these cards here. They're on opposite sides, and let's see what I will do. Now, as you can see here, these different action cards, they have a life of itself. So they have an amount of damage that you can take. And basically what happens is when a card has even just 1 damage token on it, even if its maximum capacity is 2, if it has 1 damage token on it, that indicates that you cannot use that card. So basically, you know, you want to incur the early damage on your character card, but eventually your action cards are going to have to take damage. This card, for example, has no damage symbol, so you can't put any damage tokens on it, and you wouldn't want to because this is your heal card, as a matter of fact. But once these cards have a damage token on them, you cannot use them. So eventually it gets to the point where enough of your actions are blocked, you're going to want to use your heal action in order to get rid of some of those damage tokens and be able to use your turn. So it's really all about efficiency and trying to have as efficient turns as possible. You do not necessarily die in this game for taking damage. Okay, so for my second turn, I am going to, I think, let me see, I'm looking for a weak enemy. I think I could get this guy. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to play this action right here, which allows me to move up to 2, but it cannot be boosted. And then I get to deal a regular attack. I get to deal 1 damage to an enemy in the same room. And if I've moved at least 1, I get to add those skill symbols to my damage dealt. So I'm going to play this card. I got to rotate it and flip it over. And again, it allows me to move up to 2 spaces right here. And I get to deal 1 damage plus 1 for any of that skill symbol, which I do happen to have 1 right here. So in my hero area. So that's a total of 2 attack. This enemy right here, one of the blue enemies, this is the Renegade Flamecaster. His defense is just 2. So he is not going to be strong enough to sustain my damage of 2, and I will be able to defeat him. And what happens is he goes into my hero area, and again, this becomes a currency of sorts that I could use in the future to buy a general action card. So that was just my first action of the turn. Now I am going to I think I'm just going to move. Let me see. I don't want to be near ranged weapons, so that's a problem. Ugh. That's tough. I think I'm going to play this card to draw 3 fate cards. 3 fate cards. And I got to discard down. So I'm going to draw 3 fate cards. Let me flip that over. 3 fate cards. And I will keep... I got to discard down to my maximum hand. So I'm going to keep this boot and search here in exchange for this shield and search symbol. Get rid of that. And I'm just going to discard these two, and I think I'm good. I got some boots for if I want to move. I got a little bit of attack, a little bit of magic, and a little bit of searching help. And as a matter of fact, maybe I want to keep, you know what? I might want to start exploring some of those treasures. So you know what? I might keep a second treasure. I'm going to discard this one. This is going to be helpful later on when I want to beat the boss, but that's still a while away. So there's that. And now I am done. I am not going to acquire any of these things, which again, these whispers in the competitive game are very valuable. And the card specifies how you acquire them. For example, this one, if I bring a weapon, right, like one of these equipment cards, basically I just have to have it. And I go into the armor shrine. So there's a couple shrines here in the dungeon. The armor shrine, which I believe is this one right here that has a little shield symbol on it. If I were to be able to accomplish that, I would get this card, which gives me a rune or a shard towards my end game score, right? So there's that. So I'm not going to do none of the special actions. Instead, I'm just going to activate the enemy, which again, you just flip over and discard the top card here. And this has the blue enemies. So the blue enemies are going to do their thing. So I'm just going to start from the bottom. I've got this guy right here. And this is the Homunculus. And he has a defense of 5, so he's very strong, but his attack is only 2. So we're going to move him. First, he's got the double cross, which moves him over here. Then he's got the little squiggly line, which moves him up over here. Okay, so we're done with that. Let's see if there's any other blue enemies here. I already defeated one blue enemy, so there's one less on the board. Again, we have another Renegade Flamecaster, defense of 2. He's a ranged weapon enemy with attack of 4. So first we're going to move him through the lightning bolt symbol, which moves him upward. Then he's going to move through the double cross, which would move him back down. But since it would place him in a tile or in a room that he had already been in this turn, we're just going to disregard that. And that was his second and only move. He will stay right there. And now finally, we're going to activate another Homunculus, which I've already described the stats. Here we have the double arrow. The double arrow would move him upward, but we cannot move him off the board. And the second symbol is the double cross, which would move him downward, which happens to be the room where I am in. And now the Homunculus is going to attack me. And he attacks me with 2 attack. However, I have 2 defense, which is just enough to survive his hit, so I'm not going to incur any damage. For any excess or surplus beyond my defense, I would have had to take in some damage tokens, which I would have started by placing them on my character, and eventually when he runs out of space, putting them on my action cards. All right, and this is pretty much it. This is what the game looks like. Again, this is kind of like a dungeon crawl with just card-based. I like the system of managing these different cards and manipulating them, knowing when to use them for move, knowing when to just throw away an action to set yourself up for a future turn by having the opposite card, the opposite side of the card, showing and available for you for a future turn. I find that the automated enemy triggers is really cool, really intuitive, really easy to follow. The fact that the fate deck determines which monsters are activated, which enemies are activated, the fact that the tiles of the enemies themselves tell you how they move. I find the system to be very clean, very easy to for upkeep and things of that nature. The attack is very intuitive and simple. Basically, if they're in the same room or they ever bump into you, they stop right there and they're going to attack you. If it happens to be a ranged enemy, that ranged enemy has one more space to deal with and can attack you even if you're just adjacent to the room that they are in. Managing the currencies of the monsters or the enemies as trophies, or even the treasure cards to acquire upgrades to your character, whether they be the equipment cards or the general action cards, gives you that feeling of leveling up, kind of like RPG style. So this game, top-notch experience. I do find it to be a little bit simple, a little bit easy if you don't modify the fate deck. But again, as you gain experience, you could probably make the fate deck a little bit shorter and increase that ticking time bomb feel of the game. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us here at When Harry Met Board Games. This is Harry saying take care, everybody. Stay safe, Stay healthy and have fun gaming. Bye-bye.